Hey everyone, Miss Dempsey here. Oh boy, it is time for some Route X racing, and this first race that we're about to see was probably the most controversial or one of the most controversially exciting and terrifying races that happened in the actual FIA Nations Cup season. So this lobby is pretty stacked. We also had some legends that I'll mention in a bit, but first, yeah, this lobby is pretty stacked. 348 points on the line. This was basically a top 16 race without the top 16 points, and with there being, 20 of us. But anyways, let's go ahead and go on over to the qualifying session, and we really need the slipstream since this is a super long straightaway with two bank curves. We are towards the back of the pit lane, and the game decided to just make us come out last. So we're definitely not going to get the slipstream. We're pretty much going to be qualifying alone. And this is going to be the saddest, loneliest qualifying session I'm ever going to have, especially when I needed the slipstream. And I'm just going to get left behind. No one in the front sees down way back here. So yeah, we're just going to go ahead and skip on over to a little bit later. And yeah, this was pretty much just a really sad qualifying session. Just going 257 miles per hour alone without anyone near us. Wait, hold on. Is that someone? Let's go ahead and take a closer look at... It's Jeeves! Jeeves! My man, my angelic guardian angel, I don't know how you call it. He's gonna save the day, and we're gonna go ahead and be slipstream buddies. Slipstream buddies! Come on, let's go ahead and enjoy that slipstream together. So we're gonna go ahead and skip on forward for in a moment, and the qualifying session and the race session here at Route X was actually pretty interesting because bump drafting was allowed. So we're going to go ahead and see that happen in a bit. You actually see Jeeves bumping us, and the penalty system was mostly off of this race. There were a couple of strange ways to get a penalty, but we're not going to worry about that. All we're going to worry about is just trying to go even faster thanks to the bump drafting, and we're going to eventually swap on over and just skip on over to the end of the qualifying session because we pretty much just did that for an entire lap and a half. And we're going to end up qualifying 16th place, and luckily we did not qualify last, not that it's going to matter. But anyways, let's skip on over to, oh god, yeah, so we had a couple of juggernauts in this race, a couple of the old-time legends appearing in this race, so oh god, juggernauts. We had a couple of really fast people in this race, not that it's going to matter because you're going in a straight line. So let's go ahead and skip on over to the very start of the race, and I'm not going to lie, I was, okay, interesting timer. So we're going to be counting down, and this is going to be the start of a very scary race. And here we go, lights are green, and we're just going to go ahead and tuck behind the slipstream. The slipstream was actually set to weak, so the slipstream range was going to be pretty big, and the strength of it was going to be really strong. So we're eventually going to catch up to those in the very front of the pack, especially as they start to split up and try to slingshot past each other. Not that it's going to matter for almost 2 laps. Pretty much the entire point of this race is to survive until the very last turn on the very last lap, and then that's when you all just go ahead and murder each other. At least let's try to do it then, and try not to do it anywhere before we reach that point. So a couple of cars in the front are starting to separate, and we're going to end up getting closer to them, and this is where the scary part is. We got 28 cars zipping by through here, and we're just going to try to keep our distance between everyone around us and just try to keep an eye on the radar on the bottom right hand corner of the screen to see, oh god, we got little sparks. So we're going to keep an eye on the front of the pack as things are getting a little chaotic over there, and sparks are going off. Cars are starting to spin. Now we're going to see if we can try to break through all this chaos, except the car just goes right in front of us, and we're getting a damaged car, and now we get punted by another car behind us. Our car is pretty much damaged, but we somehow ended up surviving that whole mess. The big one ended up happening not even one full lap in, and we're going to see what ended up happening. So we'll take it from the cinematic view, and the chaos ends up happening right in front of us, and we almost break through it unscratched, except the car unghosted right in front of us, and yeah, we ended up hitting them, and then we got hit by Jeeves. He actually saved us with that massive speed boost, and while our car was damaged, we were still able to keep up. But anyways, take a look at the red car in the very front. He's going to merge, and that lag ended up triggering all of this chaos. The big one ended up happening in our race on lap 1, turn 1. Almost sounds like just another day in the daily races. But yeah, I think 6 cars ended up being completely taken out of the race because of the big one, or what I'm going to call the Ave Maria. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll have a little link on the top right hand corner of the screen and in the description down below. But anyways, we have our lights flashing on as our car is getting itself repaired, and luckily, because the slipstream range is so strong, we are going to be able to keep up with the front pack of us, as Terrell Doodle is flashing us, and luckily in this case he's not going to get a violation for indecent exposure. I mean, well, he's not doing that, he's just flashing us with the headlights. But anyway, so we're just going to slowly catch up to them thanks to this super awesome slipstream in this race. And all the cars in front are kind of not really taking advantage of the slipstream, but we are really nervous now. We're kind of just waiting for everyone to murder each other, and hopefully we can try to get through it this time. Unless if everyone learned the lessons now, and we don't end up killing each other. So Doodle, who is behind us, has his popcorn ready and is waiting for the chaos to happen. I'm kind of doing the same thing. I'm lifting up my throttle because I don't want to get too close to the shenanigans, especially hitting the pit stop barrier on the right. And things are getting a little close and comfortable with everyone, but luckily nothing ends up happening. So we're just going to go ahead and kind of just form a long slipstream line of Ferrari 458 with the occasional super suspicious Nissan Skyline, and everything's going to be pretty peaceful here for now. We're just going to focus on just trying to go super fast, not that it's really going to matter as much, especially as 6 cars were taking out earlier. And we're all just going to be zooming by right now, kind of just waiting for turn 1 to happen again, and hopefully we don't end up taking each other out. Again, there are about 14 of us in this giant pack, so hopefully there's less of a chance that something crazy ends up happening. And we're all going to be pretty paranoid about this. You see Chicane, I'm actually going to give him a little love tap because he's a homie. But anyways, we're going to see if we can try to maintain our space between ourselves and, well, everyone around us. And I have the radar on and keeping an eye on it, especially as Quebec is a little hard to see on the left. And I want to make sure that I don't get too close to either him or Pelican on the right, or get too close to Chicane. And we see each other just merging. Everyone's kind of just merging around. So I'm kind of just trying to sneak my way in, kind of just make sure that I don't end up triggering anything crazy. And luckily, as this turn ends, things are going to pretty much calm down for now. We're not going to end up killing each other just yet. So now we can take a bit of a breather, as we're pretty much just going to be going, well, straight and just going to try to bump each other. But we do have to start thinking about positioning because the final turn of the final lap is coming up. And positioning is going to matter so much because if you do it right, you can slingshot yourself and try to take the victory at the very last moment. So Windfire and I are going to share the slipstream of the blue Ferrari in front of us, except, well, he's going to be going a little bit faster than us, but it's no big deal. I'm still just thinking about the last turn. Positioning doesn't matter just yet, but it will very, very soon. And we're just bump drafting each other. Dino is going to go ahead and sneak up in front of us. No big deal. Grove is on the left, and now is when the positioning is really going to matter. And I'm going to end up screwing myself over because I am not under the slipstream, and I want to try to get close, but I don't want to try to trigger another Ave Maria, but I end up screwing myself over because I'm not in the slipstream for long enough. So everyone who is in the slipstream right now is going to take advantage and try to slingshot over. Like Chicane, he's trying to slingshot over, except it's not really going to work out for him. And I'm going to try to see if I can try to go any faster. And I'm just dropping places. And I'm going to see if I can try to salvage any more spots. We're getting really close to the finish line. And that is pretty much it. we luckily finished right in front of TR Doodle and Mr. Stinky Bug, so I can put on my resume that I beat those two people because they are really fast people. And shout out to DNA G's because he ended up winning this race with 348 points. Shout out to him because he did the selfless thing of waiting for me during the qualifying session. But anyways, let's go ahead and skip on over to Daily Race A. Believe it or not, this was a daily race. Route X with the 4GT, this was a one-make race, but we did have to be a bit more careful about the slipstream because it was set to real. So you don't want to be more than 3/4 of a second behind someone because once you break that 3/4 of a second barrier, you're going to get left behind. And the thing that was also especially dangerous was that contact penalties were on, so you cannot bump draft anyone because you risk getting a penalty that way. So pretty much you had to try to slingshot past someone at the very end of the race. Luckily this race was only 1 lap long, so these races were actually pretty quick. I think they were like 4 or 5 minutes long. But anyway, skipping it over, take a look at the wide 4GT. Is going to swerve on over, and I was already a little suspicious of him. I had a bad feeling that he was going to try to do something crazy anytime soon. So keep an eye on the white GT, not mine, and he's going to swerve on over, try to take out one of the 4GTs. He's going to swerve on over again, try to take out one of the other 4GTs. He ends up getting himself a 3-second penalty, ends up spinning himself out. I don't know what his goal was. And yeah, he ended up making himself look like a complete idiot as he vanishes in the background. But anyways, let's keep on moving forward with this race. And we're going to take a similar approach as we did in the Nations race and just try to be really careful about those around us. And I'm especially keeping an eye on the front of the pack because if they end up merging onto each other, we could have a smaller version of the Ave Maria happening. And as 6th place is going to be sneaking on over, he's going to see if we can try to take a position, and he kind of ends up grinding the wall, and ends up giving the car in the front a little bump. But luckily, nothing's really going on except the car's just grinding the wall for some reason. But we can kind of just breathe easily as nothing is going to happen for the next while. So we're just going to hang back and just wait until the very last turn. And at this point, we're all going to be bunched up, except keep an eye on the car in 4th place. So the car that's all the way on the left, he shouldn't be there at this point in the race because he's going to face a very hard reality in a moment, as he's going to hit the wall that ends up merging in, and ends up taking 2 cars out and have to take evasive maneuvers and end up hitting the car in 4th place. Luckily, I didn't get a penalty, but that was a pretty scary moment. And now I can start to focus on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd place as they're not in the slipstream. 4th place and I are in the slipstream, so we're going to see if we can try to slingshot over and take a couple places for ourselves. And as there is a battle going on, we're going to slingshot past 4th place, slingshot past 3rd place. Can we slingshot past 2nd place? No, but we are going to take podium at the very last second. So not a bad result, and we survived the race. So let's keep on over to the next race, and we're going to keep on doing this with our not Mr. MCA account. And that was also the case in the last race. We did it in the not Mr. MCA account. So in the start of the race, nothing really goes on, so we're just going to go ahead and skip on over towards the end of the race, as that is where things really pick up. Someone does have a 2-second penalty, and we're going to do the same thing again, just position ourselves to try to take the slipstream and slingshot at the very last moment, but also hopefully hope that we don't get murdered in this race, as 8th place is going to slingshot by really fast, and everyone's kind of bunched up, so I am a little worried that something bad is going to happen, as there is a bit of collision going on, and I'm starting to get ready to anticipate the chaos that's going to happen. Hopefully I don't get taken out in the process, even though I'm behind, as more cars are starting to collide with each other, as the red GT gets spun out and takes 1 car, 2 cars with himself, and we're going to survive that moment and just try to slingshot over to the very end of the race. That car ended up getting a 4-second penalty. There's 1 car with a penalty, so we're going to see if we could try to slingshot over and get past at least 3rd place. 2nd place has a penalty, so we're guaranteed a position. Can we slingshot past 1st place? No. But luckily, we did take 2nd place because the one who was in 3rd place did have to take a penalty. So now let's do something stupid. Let's use my real account. This is going to end well. I'm probably going to lose a lot of DR. So let's go ahead and get this started. And the cool thing about this race was that most of the people in this race I actually knew. I've raced with them at least one time, or I talked to them. So it's pretty cool to do an actual daily race in a daily race with a lot of the people that I know and talk to or even race with. So this is one of those rare, cool opportunities that you don't really get to have that often, where you just get a whole bunch of people organize something like this, kind of like a daily race takeover. So we're just gonna go ahead and have some fun, and I kind of just wanted to mess around in this race. And my other account didn't have enough DR at the time to end up in this room, so I had to go on this account, my main account, to end up in this race and end up racing with everyone who you see here. So we're going 5 wide up the hill, and luckily I kind of just chill out here, and we're just going to wait until turn 1 to see if we all trust each other enough to, well, not end up killing each other. And a couple cars did end up getting left behind, unfortunately, and it's not really going to help because the slipstream is on weak, so they're not going to be able to get the tow from any of one of us, so they're not going to catch up. So we're going to skip on over to the very first turn, and this is where things are going to get a little tense, but I can kind of rest easily because, once again, I know these people. I pretty much trust them a lot, so I can feel a bit easy knowing that we're not going to do anything stupid. Unless someone really feels like doing something stupid, but I doubt that they'll do it. So we can just rest easy and pretty much just wait until the very last turn, because that is where things are going to get super tense, and that's where the real competitiveness is going to come out of all of us, and the positioning, once again, will be ultra important. So in a moment, we'll skip on over to the very end of the race. There we go. And I'm still going to hang back. I'm going to do the strategy that I've been doing, where I just hang back and then try to slingshot over at the very last second. And we're going to see. We're going to try to do it now, and we're going to do it a little bit too early in this case. So we're going to slingshot over, stay towards the right, and we don't have any slipstream anymore, so we're going to end up losing speed pretty early on. So that is going to end up putting us at a disadvantage, as the other cars towards the left and behind us are still in the slipstream. They're going to slingshot over, and we're going to see if we can try to keep up, except we're slowly losing more and more positions as they are getting slingshots and we're not, and we're going to end up finishing 7th place. So, well, this race was actually pretty peaceful. It was pretty fun, and I lost 700 DR. But anyways, let's take a look at this race. So we're going to choose the Toyota Supra for this 3rd time that we're doing another race on Route X. Wait, did I say Toyota Supra? No, we're actually using the F40, and this is where the shenanigans kind of just started. So this time I made sure that I was in communication with my own teammates and a couple friends, so I can stay on the slipstream this time. I did come out last again. I'm not going to show you because it was pretty embarrassing, but luckily we all waited for each other this time. So our friends are going to be in the Lamborghini Diablo, and we're going to go ahead and communicate that the F40, which is me, should be towards the back, and we're going to go ahead and have the most peaceful qualifying session that we'll probably ever have here at Route X. So we're going to go ahead and start bump jumping each other because we can do it, and we're going to be good Samaritans and pick up 2 Toyota Supras along the way. I'm just kidding, we left them behind. But anyways, so this qualifying session was pretty, well, boring. We just slipstreamed off of each other. I was flashing AMS Rush because I can, and we're going to end up qualifying 9th place, so that's not too bad. Did I mention that I'm the only F40 here? By the way, check this out.
Alright guys, it's only 2 laps.
Ooh,
so...
sexy, Mr.
Thank you, Uncle Lester, for those kind of words. But anyways, so something weird is going to happen, and Lester is not going to get a good start. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but the gap between him and the car in 7th place is going to be a bit bigger than usual. And with the F40, we're going to have an amazing launch. We have amazing acceleration. and we're going to go ahead and pass by Lester without thinking twice about it. But I do feel bad because he is going to get left behind, and eventually I am going to lift off our throttle. Not yet. We're going to do it in a bit to see if we can try to get him back into the slipstream because we all care about him and we all love Turismo Lester. So in a moment we're going to lift off the throttle, which should be right here. And unfortunately we're not going to be able to get him back into the slipstream. So the thing with the F40 is that it has really good acceleration at the start of the race, but then it kind of just goes downhill after that. And you're going to see that happening right now as we're slowly getting left behind, but because of this bank turn, we are slowly going to catch up to the pack in front of us. And I'm going to put it here now. This race ended up being a lot more boring than I thought. Nothing crazy ended up happening. We were all on our best behavior. And the other thing was that I just really wanted to mess around with this race. I only had one chance to do this race because I had to do something right after this first slot. So I just wanted to mess around and chose the F40 instead of the Supra or the Diablo. And we're going to end up having really bad problems now. We're getting left behind, and even with the bump drafting from the Supra behind us, it's still not really going to help us that much. And this is where I started to realize that I am probably in big trouble. So we desperately need to be bump drafted at all times to be able to keep up with the pack in front of us. If I am not getting bump drafted, then I am going to eventually get left behind, and that is actually going to be the scary thing. Luckily, the bank turn is going to let us catch up a bit, and I'm just hoping that I can still be bump drafted, because if the Supra behind us decides, hey, I don't want to bump draft this F40 anymore, then we're in trouble. And unfortunately, that's going to end up happening. So he ends up just squeezing on by, and I'm going to bump draft this Lamborghini, which almost triggers an Ave Maria. But yeah, I'm not getting bump drafted anymore. So this is a serious problem for us now. So I'm slowly starting to get left behind as everyone in the front is bump drafting each other, and they all have higher top speeds than the F40. So this is a huge problem. And unfortunately, I am going to end up getting left behind. And the pack behind us is going to end up catching up. So now, I kind of just fell onto the pack behind us. And I am in a desperate situation because if I just let everyone behind me slip on by, then I'm probably going to get left behind again. So now it is time for me to go full jerk mode and try to get bump drafted by someone. And luckily, Hako decided to be a volunteer and bump draft us. Okay, maybe he didn't volunteer, maybe I might have been a jerk, but I kind of need to do that so I don't get left behind. And I really need a bump draft, but no one wants to give me the bump draft. So now I kind of just have to try to cling on and hope that everyone in front of us starts to separate themselves, and then we can try to slingshot off of them. But luckily, nothing's really going on. They're not going much faster than us, and that's still going to be the case here as I end up getting myself into a position where I can be bump drafted. But we are approaching the final turn of the final lap. So now it is time to position ourselves and try to get the slingshot at the very end. And it's going to be really hard to get the slingshot in the F40 since it doesn't have the top speed, as I end up getting a little too close to 12th place. And luckily we are in a position to get a slingshot to happen, as we're going to try to pass 12th place as we end up getting a little too close to comfortable. Hello Cyrus, how are you doing today? And we're going to keep on slingshotting over. Can we try to take at least a top 10 finish, as 10th and 9th place are starting to get into a brawl with each other, end up almost taking each other out, but end up bump drafting into the Lamborghini in front of us. Can we get a 10th place finish? And we do, just barely. So we ended up doing alright in the F40. Unfortunately, things didn't really go our way, but I think just for a troll race, in a race where I just wanted to mess around, I still had some fun. But we didn't have any crazy crashes happen, so this race, well, it was a little boring in my opinion. But that is pretty much it for this race, and yeah, this video has been a video that has been months in the making, to be honest. I've had to start over on editing this specific video many times, mostly because I've kind of been in like a creative hell, if that's the right way to say it. And then with the additional Route X races that came along throughout 2020, I had to remake the video again. And yeah, I just wanted to try to make this video at least enjoyable, because I found out it's not easy to make a video about going in a really long straight line with 2 turns. And there are a couple other videos that I do need to put out soon from my time racing in the Nations Cup in 2020. There were a couple interesting races, so I can't wait to put those out because they have been in a backlog for an eternity. But anyways, that is all from me. I'm going to sign off now. So this is Miss MCA, the world's most okay player, and I'll see you in the next video.